What's up, gamers? This is NGG here with another review. This time it is for Piofiore Faded Memories. Now, Piofiore Faded Memories is another visual novel. So, for those who don't know what a visual novel is, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a visual book. So, you're basically reading and picking suggestions or between choices in this game. That's what all or most VNs are. This is only my second VN, so the only other VN that I've ever done was Cafe Enchante, and I have a review for that up on the link above or down below in all my reviews. So this is only my second VN, and this one was drastically different from my first. From my first VN, the options in the gameplay. So let's get into gameplay. So this one plays a little bit different than Cafe Enchante in that in Cafe Enchante you got to learn the characters before going into their story. In this one you have like a prologue, 2 prologue chapters, and then you go straight into the character story of the one you pick, of the bachelor you pick. So there are 5 bachelors in this game. Their names are Nikolai, Dante, Gilbert, Orlok, and Yang. So those are the 5 bachelors in this game, and each one represents a different part of the mafia in the game. So this game deals with a lot of stuff that might be triggering for some people, and I want to say right now that I'm gonna just show you what the trigger warnings are. So first trigger warning is this, second trigger warning is this, third trigger warning is this, fourth trigger warning is this, fifth trigger warning is this, sixth trigger warning is this, 7th trigger warning is this. So there are a bunch of trigger warnings in this game. And so if these are things that are gonna trigger you, I would suggest you not play this game. To be fair, one or two of these things are triggering for me, and I did not know about this. But once I start a story, I don't like to stop playing a game until I've completed the story. So let's talk about the story. I will get into in-depth in each character, but for right now, let's talk about the main premise of the story, and then we'll go in depth in each character. So the main premise of the story is it deals with the mafia. So there's this town that is overrun by mafia. There are 3 groups of mafia, each led by each of the a couple of the guys that I mentioned. So the foul zones are the first group of mafia people that run the town, and they are the oldest mafia family in the town. So they've been there the longest. Branched out of that were, and I don't know how to say the name pronounced, it's something with a V. I'm gonna put the name up here. They're branched off from the second part of the mafia, because the foul zones, the only person who could ever be leader of that mafia is anybody that's born in the blood, and if you are not from blood, you are not going to be allowed to lead that mafia. So there's no getting ahead in that mafia unless you're blood. Whereas the Viscontini, they believe in whoever did the best work or whoever represents them the best, they can lead the mafia in their house. And then there's this third organization that came in right afterwards. So the Falzones have been there the longest. The Viscontini came out of being Falzones because those people were like, well, we're never gonna get ahead in that organization, so they just made their own. And then the Yang or the Lao Shu, which is run by Yang. That organization is the Chinese mafia. So the other 2 are Italian mafia, because this takes place in Italy. So the other 2 are Italian mafia, and he is from the Chinese mafia, and they set out him into this section of the town to try to rule over this Italian town. And so he's not even like the head leader. He's like a subsection of the bigger Chinese mafia. And so he runs his little part of the mafia. So each of them have like this little town in this bigger town. And so they each have their own sections that don't cross borders or don't interact with each other. And then there's the church. The church is supposed to be like neutral ground. Nobody does any activity there. Like the mob bosses go to church. At least two of them, the Gilbert and Dante, really go to church like regularly. But Yang, because they don't believe in God or believe in Christian religion, he doesn't go to church. So you'll never see him on the church grounds. So the church grounds is supposed to be neutral territory, like in that area. The cops are right near the church. So like in that area of the church, there's the casino, the church, a couple of other stores, obviously, and then the main hub for the police station in that area. And so that's why that's more of a neutral territory. Everybody like stay off that territory. That area is relatively safe compared to all the other areas, and so nobody touches that area. The characters that I mentioned before all have 3 different type of endings. So I also wasn't used to that. I was only used to a good and a bad ending. This one you get 3 endings. You get the bad ending, the good ending, and then the best ending. And so obviously the best ending is the best possible outcome for you and your love interest. And I wasn't used to that being a thing because the last one I played was just 2 endings. So this is a lot more story and a lot more content that I got in the other game. So this was much longer for me, so it took me longer to play through, which I pretty much liked that it was longer. I didn't, this is not my kind of game because I like more fantasy, things that can't happen IRL. And there are some things that take place in this that can't happen IRL, but for the majority, a lot of this storyline that takes place can happen IRL, and that's why for me, I'm like, it's not my type of game. There is a fan disc coming out soonish. That's why I wanted to play this one, to make sure that I wanted to pick up the fan disc. Now, I'm very heavily invested in these characters, so I still might pick up the fan disc, but there were some characters that were a bit sketch, and we'll go into that in a little bit. So, the setting of this story takes place in Italy in the 1920s. This story is all about religion, to be fair. Like, a lot of it branches off between religion and mafia. So this deals with Catholicism as the main religion in this town, because they have popes and it's all based on the Catholic religion. So if you wanted to find out more about that kind of religion, or you're not caring for the Catholicism, either way, Catholicism is a main proponent in this game. They talk about it, like it's the main theme, and what's driving certain characters is their religious beliefs. Okay, now let's get into each character individually. Now let's go over your actual character. She is the key maiden, and so in the church doesn't tell you that she's a key maiden. She doesn't even know. She has like this weird birthmark of a fleur de lis on her chest, and she hates that birthmark. She's always trying to cover it up, but she has a fleur de lis birthmark, and it means that she's the chosen key maiden. And the key maidens can be chosen, different key maidens at different times, but she's the main key maiden. So like all of the girls in her town are going missing at one point, and it's because they're trying to find the key maiden, and they're being abducted, and you don't know why girls are being abducted randomly. She's a member of the church. Some of the kids call her sister, but she's not really a nun. She's just grew up at the church, and then she never left. And so the only thing I don't like about this character is she falls into one of those trigger warning things for me, and I'm like, I don't know about why she falls in love with these guys because of it. Like most of these guys really take her without her permission, basically, and I'm like, I don't know about this, but yeah. So, and that's about her. And her name is Liliana. She likes to be called Lily, and so that's your main character that you play as. She has a friend in the church as well, and she has the sister that she feels like is her mother. The next of the stuff I'm going into is going to be very spoiler heavy, and so I will put a cut in the description below where you can cut ahead to the rating. But right now I'm going to go on over each character individually, and I'm going to put them in the order of least favorite to most favorite. And I think I like that better. Alright, so let's get into the first character. So this is my least favorite character, is Yang. And now for him, he is very much of a sadist, I think. And I don't know that I kind of, like, he was meant to be hated, obviously, but like, he is super sadistic, and like, if you don't pick the right choices, he can kill you at any time. Obviously, you're dealing with the mafia, so this character can kill you at any time, and I am not like a fan of this. Like, if you run, or if you make one move, or if you say something wrong to him, like, he's very narcissistic, and he also is very much of like, he values intelligence. He doesn't want women fawning over him, and he wants you to be an intelligent character in the game. And so with that, like, if you get the bad ending, like, it's because you hit on him eventually, and he didn't like that. He wants to take you into himself, and he is part of the Chinese mafia, and he is the one mafia dude that nobody ever sees in the town. Like, nobody knows what he looks like initially until you meet up with him. He has taken you from the church, and when you're brought into his house, it's like you try to run away, and like, immediately he kisses you for some reason. I don't understand what happened with that. I think it's part of his, like, I want to see if she'll fall in love with me right away thing, and she doesn't. Depending on which choices you make, you don't or you do. But like, he tells you like things like, oh, if you want to, you have to sleep in my bedroom, and if you don't sleep in my bedroom, you can sleep in the bedroom with everybody else, but I can't guarantee your safety. Over here in my bedroom I can, but in their bedroom I cannot guarantee your safety. So things like that, like, oh, like, and they will take you if they want to. And then, like I said, it deals with one of those trigger warnings that I mentioned. And I really, this character, I hated this character. Every one of his storylines, I really much despised. I don't think if I played the next Fantasy that's coming out, that I will actually play his plot again, because there was only one storyline in which he wasn't such a jerk, and that wasn't even in his own storylines, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was in somebody else's storyline where he was not so bad. And yeah, I really despised the kind of person he was. He in the bad ending, like, he kills you to kill the other, like, he like puts a knife in you from your back so that it goes through you to reach to the other mob boss to kill him. So like, that's how like evil he is. He's like, oh, I don't care if you're in my way. If you're in my way, I'll just kill you too, kind of situation. I really didn't like this character. So let's get into the next character. And the next character for me that I really didn't like was a secret ending character. So I won't be telling you his name or who he is, but suffice to say is like his storyline deals with and his storyline is the storyline you have to unlock every other guy to unlock this guy. So like I thought there were only five guys, and there are actually six. So in his storyline, you have to unlock every other character before you can unlock his storyline. And I really, really didn't like him as a character. Like, I didn't get his motivation as much to do the things he did. Like, he was putting everybody, like, he was trying to eliminate the mafia, essentially. And so he was doing things in the background to antagonize every mob boss, to try to get the people of the town to hate them, and turn against them, which I get kind of that. Like, you don't want the mafia around, but he wasn't like working with the police to do it. He was working on his own. He was killing people on his own. So essentially for me, it felt like he was a fourth mob boss. And I really, like, I didn't like, and his ending thing, I mean, his storyline is shorter because it comes from the fifth storyline, Gil's storyline, and dissects into his. But I really, really didn't like this character, and like the things that happened in the storyline because of him. Though his ending, like his storyline, brings all of them together, and like into a way that sounds okay. Like, these are all these mob bosses working together to try to eliminate the problem that's trying to eliminate them. And this storyline is the only one where I could tolerate Yang, because he wasn't such an asshole. He was more or less like, I mean, he was a regular asshole, but he wasn't like a sadistic asshole. And so this is the only storyline in which Yang was an okay character. The next mob boss I will tell you about is Nikolai. So Nikolai in the beginning of the game, there are only two that you can unlock right away, then before you play through the rest of the game. So Nikolai and Dante are the two storylines. So Nikolai would be the storyline that most people get into the first round. And with him, he wasn't sadistic, but it was for me that Nikolai is like the underboss for Dante, and which didn't make sense because a lot of the meetings he was in there too, acting as a boss, but he really wasn't a boss. He was Dante's second in command, and he also, like, he grew up with Dante. They grew up as cousins or brothers or something. They weren't brothers, but they grew up real close. And so, like, him and Dante have a really good relationship. And in his storyline, he is trying to actually ruin Dante. He's trying to get Dante to no longer be the boss, because he feels like Dante, because Dante was born into it, he didn't have a choice, like in the Viscotti, that they had a choice, whereas Dante didn't have a choice in if he got to be the boss or not. That was just what he was gonna be. With that, he tries to go through Gil, and he tries to like shut down his own family. Like, he doesn't want his family to or specifically Dante to be leading his family anymore, because he feels like Dante didn't have a choice, whereas every other mob boss leader did, where Dante was the only one in line for it, because he's the only pure blood left, essentially. And he does some things to try to, like, remove Dante from the head of the thing. And, like, he's super, like, ladies man. And so you see him flirting with the girls and stuff like that. And in his storyline, his bad ending, he, like, literally, and this is the bad ending, I understand, but this is supposed to be, like, she lives in this ending, and your main character, and he kind of essentially kissed her. Like, you can, like, at the end of his the bad ending storyline, you can't see anybody, you can't leave your room. He brings you these pretty dresses, and he makes love to you every night, and you think you're happy, but you can't. Nobody will speak to you. He doesn't allow anybody to come in. He doesn't allow you to come out, and you think you're happy. And his good ending, like, you guys run away because Dante finds out that he was trying to overthrow him as a mob boss, and you guys run away together. But like, with his ending, it was a lot of like playboy things that he was doing to get her, and manipulation. He was manipulating your character a lot to try to get her to do whatever he wanted. And in the good ending, like, you don't kill your cousin, and you end up going back, because they end up fighting. In every ending, they end up fighting. He's the traitor, right? So with the great ending, the best ending, you end up going back into the house. They take you back, and you end up living happily ever after in the house, being the underboss with the main character. And for me, I didn't really like his storyline too much. It wasn't the worst. I thought it was the worst until I played the other two. But it wasn't my favorite. The next character I want to talk about is Gilbert Redford, and in his storyline, he is the one that you have to unlock everybody else's story, at least the other 4 characters, before you can unlock his character. And so he's supposedly supposed to be the good ending, or like the perfect match for her, and he's okay. I mean, I feel like he's just, everybody in town likes him. So that's the one thing, is like, he's very sociable in the town. Everybody likes him. He talks to all the other people in his area, and like, so he's super nice to all the characters, even your character. There's never one storyline where he treats you evil, not even in the bad ending. He treats you evil. So like, he's one of the nicer bosses in the game. But I feel like for me, he was just like a pretty boy kind of thing. He has an eye patch, so he's not meant to be the pretty boy, but yeah, I just, like, he was okay. He wasn't the worst storyline. I feel like I had no personal connection to him. Like, he definitely, in his storyline, he is being thrown under the bus. He's being accused of money laundering. So in his storyline, he goes to jail, and his underboss is a lawyer, so his lawyer is trying to get him out of jail. And it deals with a lot of like, all right, you gotta find out what's going on, and why you are being framed for money, for counterfeiting money, which you didn't do, because for him, it's like, counterfeiting money would be like a slap in the face to the people that he really enjoys in the town. So he's not doing that, but definitely he definitely gets accused of it. And in his bad ending, even in his bad ending, he's not so bad. Like, he really loves your character, and she wants to run away with him, and he's like, no, stay in this town. I'm gonna run away. I'm always gonna be chased, because I did not only counterfeited here, I counterfeited the $10 bill, and it's American money, and so everybody's gonna be looking for me, so I'm never gonna be safe anywhere. So like, with him, he's definitely always looking out for your character. So even his bad ending is not really a bad ending. It's a bad ending for you, because you're supposed to end up with all these characters, but it's not really a bad ending. So he's a nicer character, I believe. He just wasn't one of my favorites, but he's definitely a lot nicer than a lot of these other bosses. In The next character I want to talk about is Orlok. Now, so Orlok is the only character that I got the best ending on my own. So, he is a character I could understand his motivation and what drives him, and that's probably why I could get his best ending. So Orlok is he's not a crime boss. He's not part of the mafia. He is part of the church's he's part of the church, and he is assigned to protect your character at all costs. He's younger than you by like 3 years, and so he is also always been raised and grown up with the church, so he doesn't understand like certain things in the outside world. Like, he's very naive when it comes to it, but he is amazingly strong, amazingly fast. He's called the disciple, and in the disciples, their motivation is to protect you, the key maiden, and he has to protect you at all costs. So I could, like, for him, I could understand his motivation. All of it, it's gonna be being a good person, because he always wants to be a good person, even though he has to hurt people and maybe murder people. He tries his best not to. He tries to injure them so that they can't come after him anymore, but never trying to kill them. So for him, I could understand his motivation. He was always just trying to do what was good for you and what was good for the church. And so I really liked him as a character. He was also super sweet. He was never trying to like do one of those trigger warnings that I mentioned to you. He was always letting you lead what you wanted to do, and he was like, I'll just protect you. If there was any a point where he couldn't, and it was for you, it was always for your safety. So his main motivation was just to protect you and listen to the church. The only problem is that the person in the church he was listening to, Rosenberg, I think is the name of the guy, is a corrupt official in the church. So the person he's listening to is corrupt, but he doesn't know that. He thinks that this man is a good man, because he's one of the head. He's really high positioned in the church. So he doesn't know that some of the things that he's doing is being taken advantage of by this guy who's telling him to do certain things. Because even in the beginning of the game, when you are first tasked to this character, like, he steals you away from the church to protect you, but he takes you to the Lao Shu, so Yang's boss's territory, and like, he's having a hard time, like, why does this church official deal with people who are not even of the church? You know what I'm saying? He's having a hard time wrapping his head around why he has to do certain things for the church, because even he is not comfortable, or like he knows that the church head leader told him to, but he's not actually comfortable doing certain things. His storyline deals with like conscience versus what his religion tells him to do, and so like that's his main motivation is just to protect you at all costs. In every storyline, he is just protecting you, which so for him, I could understand his motivation, which is why without a guide, I got the best ending. And so I really liked him as a character. He was not my favorite character, but he was always protecting the key maiden, which was his position. But there was one point where, like, if the church told him that your death was for the greater good, he would have taken you out. So like, even though he was always protecting you, if the church decided you were disposable, you would be disposed of. And see, that's why, like, with his motivation, I was like, I get his motivation. I understand where he's coming from when it comes to religion, but like, he didn't have his own mind at the time. The next and last character I want to talk about is Dante. And Dante was my favorite character in this game. So Dante is the leader of the Falzone family. And for me, Dante was always a very stable character. He's not very like playboyish. He's very like quiet. He's reserved. He doesn't want to show any emotion, because besides being tough, because he's the leader of this organization. So like, even to the point where like, he doesn't, even though he likes sweets, he doesn't want to eat them with you around, because he's like, oh, I can't have them thinking that the leader of this organization likes sweets like a kid. You know, like, he really takes his role in the family very, very seriously. And to the point where in every storyline he is in, there's, minus Orlok's, every storyline, his main goal, so like, his organization is the oldest in the church, I mean in the town, for a reason. His family is called, for the church, they're called the Gravekeepers. And with this storyline, the Gravekeepers are dealing with, like, they have to protect the relic, and you're the key maiden, and you're the key to unlocking that relic, with the member, with the blood of the foul zone. So he takes his position very, very seriously. His father really never told him what the relic was or how to unlock it. So in his storyline, you go around finding out what the relic is and how to unlock it. But in every storyline, Dante is like always righteous when it comes to your character. He never wants to injure your character, even when you decide in other storylines not to be in his household being taken care of by him. He's still always taking care of you. And so I think with Dante, like, every storyline even in other storylines, he was always such a sweet character, very loving, very nurturing. He's always been watching after you since you came to the church as an orphan. He's always been just watching you in the background. He never wanted, because he understands that key maidens can change, he never wanted you to know you were key maiden. He never wanted you to be interrupted in just living your daily life in the church. He never wanted you part of anything that had to do with his position as mafia. So he just watches you from afar. He comes to church weekly. He has the church watched just to make sure that you're okay. Like, and I know that it's probably that because he's the gravekeeper that was his position, but because he took his position very seriously, in every storyline, he's very understanding of your character, wanting to protect your character, as well as in Orlok, as Orlok did. The only time that he was not a good guy, and I say not a good guy because he could have killed you in Orlok's storyline. In Orlok's bad ending, Orlok is taken prisoner by Dante, and like you convinced Dante not to kill Orlok, so he's kept in the basement as a prisoner. And when like, he tells Orlok, like, look, he tells you, what do you mean I can't kill him? He tried to murder me. He murdered my father when he was younger. And you tell him, look, I'll do anything. He goes, anything to keep this guy alive? She goes, anything. And he goes, all right, then sleep with me. That was the only time where I was like, oh, that's a little but like, he doesn't kill your character even after your character could have been murdered then and there, because you guys were both doing some stuff that he wasn't happy with. He never killed your character, even in the worst ending. Like, he wasn't a terrible guy, I think. And that was the worst possible. Like, all the other characters had, like, where they murdered you. He never like their bad endings, or in certain, like, because you can get endings in this game just by regularly playing and just picking the wrong thing. He never murdered you as a character. He always tried to protect you. So in all of his storylines, I feel like his is a more nurturing love. Like, he doesn't even want to fall in love with you kind of thing. He just wants to protect you and make sure that he does his job well as the boss and keeping the key maiden safe. And so in his best ending, you find out what the keeper of the grave job is, and his job is apparently Jesus, you know, in the story of the Bible, Jesus resurrected, but in this game, Jesus didn't resurrect. His body is actually buried, which is why he's the grave keeper, because he's a secret keeper. And you know, for you guys to unlock the relic, which is Jesus's body being buried, you have to love each other, but like not just like love each other, like love each other wholeheartedly and sweetly. And I think that's the only thing that the blood of each of them unlock. And in one of his endings, like, he was bleeding and you were able to save him just by bringing him to the altar. But like I said, that's after like you already had fallen in love with him. So I really liked Dante as a character. He was never abusive like all the other ones, taking advantage of her. He was always protecting her. Even when you tried to run away from his home, he caught you. He got so mad at you because he's like, you almost died trying to run away from my home. What were you thinking? Like he's always like, hey, take care of yourself, make sure you're not gonna injure yourself, kind of situation. So I really appreciated Dante as a character. Now, if I was gonna give this game a rating, I want you to keep in mind that this game is not generally the kind of game I would play. I would rate this game a 3.5. This wasn't my favorite game. It dealt with a lot of trigger warnings. I did enjoy reading the storyline and finding out what happened after I got invested, but it took a little bit for me to get invested, to be fair. That's why it took me longer to read this game. Because it dealt with subjects that I wasn't, like, obviously I grew up myself Catholic, so I know about the Catholic Church and stuff like that, but I wasn't happy about all the other subjects that it reached on and touched upon. So yeah, I feel like for me that is a fair rating. That's why I'm not sure if I'm gonna get the second part. It was, I mean, I did read the game. I was heavily invested when I was reading it. It's just not a story that I would particularly myself enjoy this kind of game. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. Happy gaming, guys. Bye.